Hello, everybody. Happy Labor Day to you all. Well, yeah, it's first Monday of September. Summer is just about over with. Hope you guys enjoyed your summer. It is now September. It is Labor Day. Welcome to Cinemacast, our movie review podcast series right here on YouTube. And you can also watch this series uploaded on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/ArrowENT. And if you guys want to check out any more of our streams, podcasts, and such, be sure to follow us on Kick and Twitch. And also our social media links for all those are right down below. So, here it is, Labor Day 2024. And boy, do I got a movie for you today. Today's feature is The Crow. And I'm not talking about that very brilliant cult classic 1994 Brandon Lee version of The Crow, where Brandon Lee tragically died while filming the movie The Crow. And I'm not talking about the stinkers that followed afterward, you know, the ones with, I think it was Edward Furlong in one of them, and I don't know, there was like 2 or 3 other ones that came out afterward. No, I'm talking about this newly monstrosity, which later on I will explain my thoughts with it, of course. We're talking about the Rupert Sanders directed 2024 version reboot of The Crow starring Bill Skarsgard. Now, I will say, you know, for a young actor, you know, 34 years old, Bill Skarsgard, I try to say that real fast, Skarsgard. Jesus, I can't even pronounce his name right. There's a lot of movies that I have not seen him in or remember seeing him in, though. Like, I feel like he didn't really hit, you know, just, I don't think his identity really massively hit until 2017's reboot of Stephen King's It. But he had a few other movies, you know, that was before that, even well back into the year 2000. But looking at these movies, I'm like, they all look like they were direct to DVD, or, well, there's one that was a couple Swedish films. So I guess he's a Swedish actor, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. He was born, yeah, let's see. He's a Swedish actor. So a lot of the films that he has done were all done in Sweden. So they're Swedish films. And for this, wow, you know, like, yeah, the first movie that I seen him in was Stephen King's It. And then, of course, I didn't even know this. He had a cameo part, I guess, as Zeitgeist in the movie Deadpool 2. I did not know that was him. Okay. But then, you know, he was in both It and It Chapter 2 and a few other movies that followed after that. The movie Barbarian, he was in. That was actually a pretty good movie right there. That also had I think it's just Justin Long. Yeah, Justin Long was in it too. That was a pretty decent American horror thriller right there. Also in John Wick Chapter 4. I haven't even seen Chapter 3, but he's been in quite a few movies, and he's got a couple more coming out. One that is still in post-production right now, which is coming out this year, is Nosferatu. He plays Count Orlok. Okay, so he's going to be the vampire in the remake, I guess, you know, of Nosferatu. Now, I will say Nosferatu, how long ago did that movie come out, though? Let's see, yeah, Nosferatu is based upon, you know, the 1897 novel from Bram Stoker, which is Dracula. But I want to see, Nosferatu is a movie that came out, holy shit, yes. Nosferatu came out in 1922. One of the oldest films out there. Nosferatu has been out for 102 years. 102 years for Nosferatu. And coming out soon is the, I guess, the reboot for Nosferatu, starring Bill Skarsgard as Count Orlok. So that is going to be interesting. That comes out, holy shit, that comes out Christmas Day. When is Christmas Day? Okay, Christmas Day is on a Wednesday. So, okay, from Universal Studios, his new movie, Nosferatu, comes out on Christmas Day. And also, Willem Dafoe is in it, too. Huh, I'm surprised they didn't get Willem Dafoe to do the part of the creature. But we're not here talking about that creature. We're talking about another creature that Bill Skarsgård plays. Now, he is a somewhat, I will say, a pretty decent, underrated actor when it comes to his roles. I didn't see all his roles. I will say, like, his role in Stephen King's It matched up there with Tim Curry. Now, a lot of people, they do prefer Tim Curry over Bill Skarsgård, but, you know, for this day and age, like, when you're remaking a movie, and especially when they're basing it straight from the novel itself, which made the story even more better, and you gotta figure, for 1990, the Tim Curry version, the movie was only maybe 3.5 hours long, I think it was. It was a TV miniseries. It wasn't theatrical, it was a TV miniseries, so there wasn't a whole lot of blood and gore or profanity or whatever, you know, whatnot. Now, the studio version, you know, the 2017 version, the remake, that has a lot of blood and gore. That has a lot more profanity in it, so it was more along the lines with how the novel was. So yeah, that made it pretty good, and Bill Skarsgård's acting was pretty top-notch in there, like I said. You know, like, I like Tim Curry, but I think Bill Skarsgård, I think his acting in that movie was superb. Now, when it comes to it, I do like them both. I do like them both equally. There's neither war that I would pick over the other one, basically, so to say. Now, his role in this movie, however, The Crow, oh my god. So, he definitely, I would say, kind of tries to play a different sort of part for this version of The Crow. Now, I will say that because even though I only seen the 94 Crow once, maybe twice, and I vividly remember a lot of the story, I vividly remember a lot of the acting, or the characters and the story and everything with it. It's been a while, but I will say, like, you know, okay, The Crow is a gothic superhero movie. There's nothing really horror about it. You know, there's no horror themes with it. I mean, I guess some people can probably say, yes, it's got a horror theme to it, but no, it's a superhero film. It's a R-rated superhero film. It's nothing like Marvel or DC will bring you. And it's also spawned a lot of comic book series too, you know? So, for being the franchise, okay, so we got The Crow, which came out in 94. Then you got City of Angels, which came out in 96. The Crow Salvation in 2000. And then The Crow Wicked Prayer in 2005, which stars, oh my god, I'm looking at it, Edward Furlong. And my god, does he look horrible in that role. Like, the makeup and everything. Like, I'm sorry, you know, Edward Furlong, I think he had his day, you know, when he had Terminator and Pet Sematary 2 and a couple others, but no, he does not fit that role. That's almost like he just came off of drugs, basically. That's how I look at it. But yeah, so there's, like, already been there's already been 4 movies in the franchise, and then now you got The Crow remake, which is the 5th one. And it's a reboot of the series, and it was distributed by Dimension Films and Miramax back in 94, but this one is distributed by Lionsgate. So let's do a little recap on a little bit of The Crow from the 94 perspective. So yes, it is a 94 American gothic superhero film, which is based off the 1989 comic book series by James O'Barr. The 94 version starred Brandon Lee, who was the son of Bruce Lee. And this was his final film role as the character Eric Draven, who's a rock musician who was resurrected from the dead to seek vengeance against the gang who murdered him and his fiancée. I'll get to the plot a little bit in the new one, because this is very, very different than what it is with the 94 version. Now, what happened behind the scenes with the 94 Crow, Brandon Lee, he was fatally wounded by a prop gun during filming. As he finished most of his scenes, the film was completed through script rewrites, stunt doubles, and digital effects. After Lee's death, Paramount Pictures opted out of distribution, and the rights were acquired by Miramax. The film was dedicated to Lee and his fiancée, Eliza Hutton. So yeah, that was a thing back in the day, and it still is a thing today. When you do films, and I don't know what it is about films, like, I'm not against firearms. I don't own firearms myself, but I'm not against them. But I don't see a reason for why you would have a live firearm on the set of a movie. Why you would have live ammunition for that gun on a film set. Look at what recently happened within the last year with actor Alec Baldwin when he shot and killed another actor by accident, right? But did he get charged with murder or anything? No. I guess it was considered an accident, you know? But then again, it's like, why is there an actual weapon on set with live ammunition? I will never understand that. I can understand having a gun and firing blanks, maybe, or having something that just fires smoke and makes a loud sound or whatever. But usually you would think movies like that would have prop weapons, rubber, plastic, just hard metal, but, you know, don't take bullets at all. Like, I don't understand that. Just like recently, okay, a little tidbit, I just found out that, okay, they said, and I don't know if it's a slap in the face or maybe they were like, okay, we're not making this mistake again. Somebody came out and said that there were no actual firearms on the set for the remake of The Crow. Everything was a prop weapon. There was no live ammunition or anything like that. So I don't know if it's a slap in the face to the original or what. I feel like this movie in general is a slap in the face to not just what made 94 Crow one of the best movies of the 90s, in my opinion, but a slap in the face to actor Brandon Lee. You know, that's how he died. So why is it that Hollywood is still using, you know, actual firearms on the sets of movies? I mean, unless it's aesthetics, prosthetics, whatever you want to call it, you know, like using them as props. But still, like, you would think they would have, like, blanks for their live rounds, you know, like, you never fire an actual weapon at somebody or just use special effects for that kind of thing, you know? Like I said, I'm not anti-gun. I do believe in the Second Amendment and everything like that. You know, that's me politically, but I'm just saying, like, when it comes to movies, like, why would you have actual weapons on a movie set? I still don't understand that. But yeah, the 94 Crow, it definitely does have a different plot structure than what this one does. And for the Brandon Lee version, I feel like it's much better structured, I should say, when it comes to the plot and the story for that one. Whereas the story for this Bill Skarsgård's version, it doesn't feel like it's structured properly. I just feel like there is just a whole lot of something missing out of this version, where they're trying to say, okay, this is a reboot or a remake of the original Crow. We're going to try to make it, you know, what they made the original Crow, you know, as good as it was. And I don't think you can ever do that. You can never make it that good. This movie, however, and they have, I will say, they have the gall to say that this one is also an American Gothic superhero film. To me, it's almost like two sides of a spectrum, in a sense. Now, they're dark films, they're very Gothic related, right? But I mentioned to my fiance after I saw it, because she didn't want to see it. I didn't really want to see it either. I figured I was probably going to anyway. My daughter wanted to see it. She liked it. But just where I'm getting to now, it's like, I think for us old school fans who grew up on movies in the 90s like The Crow, that respect movies like that, you know, from, especially when you got actors as talented as Brandon Lee was, especially in that movie, you know, where for something that happened to him, very tragic, but still he delivered an amazing performance in that movie. I feel like us millennials, I guess we can call ourselves, I feel like we're more dedicated to a nostalgia factor with a movie like that, not just because of how good it was, but because of what happened behind it. And we will always support, you know, actor Brandon Lee for, you know, his work on the movie. Whereas with this one, I almost feel like it's a slap in the face to the 94 version, especially when I seen the trailer for it, and I was like, oh my god, no, they're not doing another Crow movie. And it's just looking at the movie poster for it, I'm like, oh my god. And they say true love never dies, right? So when I look at the other poster for the 94 version, it says believe in angels. But there is a theme of love that carries through both of these movies, I will say. Like, you know, they have a strong love for each other, but with the 94 version, it wasn't love that was driving him to take care of business. You know, he was out for revenge for this gang, this crime lord gang in the city that killed him and his fiance, and he was out for revenge. Whereas in this movie here, okay, so this film stars Bill Skarsgård as Eric, or the Crow, which is the name of the Brandon Lee's character in the 94 version. So this one, he is a man who is resurrected to avenge the deaths of himself and his girlfriend, who's played by FKA Twigs. When I saw that name, I was like, who in the fucking Christ is FKA Twigs? I've never seen such a fucked up name in my life. Her name looks like it's Talia Barnett. I guess it's Talia Barnett, who goes professionally by her stage name FKA Twigs. She's a British singer, songwriter, actress, and dancer. I don't know why somebody like this picked the name of FKA Twigs. Like, she wasn't even in that many movies to begin with. Like, looking at it, I was like, yeah, I've never seen none of those. They really must be like British films, I guess. I'm not too sure, but yeah. So I already explained the plot situation of the first one, the original. So this one is much more different. Like I said, it's much more differently structured than the 94 version. So this one, you don't follow Eric right away. Well, you get a 60-second, and I want to say a minute and a half segment at the beginning, where it's this random kid walking on this farm, and he sees this white horse that's tangled up in barbed wire, and he's trying to free the horse from the barbed wire. But then it cuts to, you know, Eric, who wakes up, he's having nightmares and stuff like that. So it's a scene that just doesn't make any sense at all. And you see these flashbacks throughout the movie, and it's not really fully explained. You just see these flashbacks. So there's already plot hole number one as to why we're seeing something that we really shouldn't be seeing. That's like going back to 2008 or 2009 with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, where you had the lady in white, which is the mother, you know, the Myers mother, walking with a pony, you know, who meets up with Michael and Laurie and shit. I'm like, where's the significance in that? There's none. It's just a filler. It's just something stupid. That's what I feel like when I watch this movie already. It's like you already got a filler that makes no sense at all. And you only see it through a few flashbacks. But mostly this movie starts out where you follow this girl, Shelley. Now, Shelley is, I think she was in the first Crow, I want to say. I think that was her name, Shelley. Yeah, Shelley Webster. Okay, Shelley. So, characters' names do carry over. Okay. So, you got this woman named Shelley. She's a musician, as opposed to with the 94 Crow, where Eric was the rock star. He was the rock musician. So this one, she's a musician with similar issues to what Eric has. And she receives a video text from her friend named Sadie that incriminates a crime lord named Vincent Rogue, who is posing as a musical aristocrat. Choosing to save the video, despite knowing the possession it would mean her death, she attempts to hide it, but is immediately pursued by Rogue's henchmen. So, already, we got a slight plot hole, but it is explained a little bit later in the film. So you're almost like, okay, what's the significance with this little video? You see this video, and it means something, and it's like, okay, you got these people, they're after her, so what's the significance here? So she ends up getting taken to a rehabilitation center. She gets caught and taken to a rehabilitation center where she does meet up with Eric, who is in the center, who's recovering from, childhood struggles and such things like that, where you think it's like a prison. It's almost like a prison, but it's not quite a prison. It's a rehabilitation center, basically. So that's where she meets up with Eric. So you got these two people, they meet up. They sort of start to like each other. And then one day, they take notice to this group of people that have come to meet her. And it turns out they work for this guy, Vincent Rogue, who you do find out who they are later on. So Eric, he does proceed to help her escape, and it's like there's not even any kind of effort to it, really. Like I said, it's not really a prison per se, but it's like there's not even any effort to this escape. There's no, it's nothing edge of your seat kind of thing, He just takes her down to the laundry room. They take off these bands that help them track, they're tracked down. They're like little trackers, but he's able to cut them off, And then they climb out through a window in the laundry room, run across the yard, hop over a fucking barbed wire fence, and take off into the woods. And it's like, there's no chase. There's like no chase for them at all. It's like they escaped. Oh, we gotta find them. Nope, none of that. So yeah, it's like it's just a lot of stuff that's very subtle that start happening throughout this movie, and then it's like, well, wait a minute, ain't nobody gonna come after them? Like, no, they're just on the run right now from this group, who does eventually catch up with them, and does eventually kill both of them. Just like in the original, they're both killed off, but they're killed off in such a dumbass way. They're being suffocated with plastic bags over their heads. That's how they die. Okay, that's how they die. But then you see Skarsgard, you see his character wake up in this otherworldly place. It's almost like a train yard or a junkyard he wakes up in, and he meets up with this random guy whose name is, what was his name? Kronos. I don't even want to pronounce his name because I can't pronounce his name. So it's a spirit that guides Eric on his mission. And already it's like, he states, okay, you have the power of immortality as long as your love stays pure for the person that you love who was murdered, and you got to take care of these people who did you all wrong. So it's like a thing of you got to wrong the right or right the wrong or whatever. It's a stupid little fucking message. So unlike the original, I don't remember there was any kind of guide for him. But he was always followed by a crow. I remember that. It always has something to do with a crow. And he always dressed in, I think, leather, and he had a cape. Not a cape, but I think like a trench coat or something. I can't remember. But in this one, it's like he's being guided by this guy who tells him, you're on a mission, you gotta go take these out if you want to save your girlfriend's life, basically. So it's one of those, it's like, you save your girlfriend's life, you must kill these people off. Oh, you can feel pain, but you can still heal up. You still got a healing factor, though. So they keep that part of the superhero aspect with it. They make it a little bit more supernatural in a sense. So, of course, he does return to Earth. He does end up looking for whoever, was all involved. I'm not going to go too deep into the movie to explain a lot of it to you guys, but that is pretty much just the opening premise to this movie that I can give you right now. But I will say, with the way the story plays out, the way everything plays out, it's almost like they mixed a lot of different ideas from a lot of separate movies that all just it just makes no sense for this combination. I'm pulling in vibes from movies like Constantine, Ghost Rider. There's just a couple others I can't even think of. But this movie, it feels like it has really no connection or really no detail connecting to the original Crow or what made The Crow such a good movie. Like this one, remember when I said it's almost like night and day in a sense? Well, even though they call both of them Gothic superhero films, I stated that, okay, the 94 Crow is more Gothic. It has more of a Gothic feel, whereas this new 2024 version has more of an emo feel to it. So it's I know emo and goth are two different things, and people do try to compare them because they're both dark in a sense, similarity in a sense. But no, it's Gothic, it's hard to put how Gothic is, but it has more of that Gothic appeal to the first and the original. Whereas with this one, it's just more emo based. It's really dark. The whole theme of the movie is dark. That's it. It's when you look at it, it's just really dark. Even in the theater, it's oh my god, some things I could not even see on the screen. It was just so fucking dark. And the way the story progressed, I will say, it's it was almost hard to follow at times, where I just started falling asleep. I literally fell asleep a couple times during the latter half of the movie, and it was really something else. And it's almost to me, the first half of the movie almost kind of drags. It tries to get in there. To be fair, it tries to get in there, plays out a story where it's trying to explain everything and put it all together. But I feel when they try to put the story together, there's just a few key things that they did not incorporate into the story to help it make sense at all. But yeah, I just cannot stress enough with the way this movie is put together. Like I said, the first half just strung out. The latter half, they just rush right through it. They pretty much rush the ending. And I will say, there is one scene where he's just mauling an entire group of people associated with the main villain of the movie. And he is just going at him with a sword, very little with a gun. But yeah, he is just mauling people away. You got scenes where he is, cutting off heads, cutting off body parts. It was truly something else. I will say one thing that this movie does have going for it, which is pretty cool, is possibly the music, the score in the movie. Now, when you got a movie like this, yeah, you gotta have a fantastic score. You gotta have a good movie score to go along with it. The music has just, it's gotta fit perfect. It's just gotta fit just right to give it the right mood, the right setting for it. And I feel like that's where strongest trope is. But yeah, let's say with the 94 Crow. And there was a banger for the soundtrack and the score. So there was two things that the movie had going for it. It had a soundtrack, okay? You had bands that were good for the time, such as The Cure, Stone Temple Pilots, Nine Inch Nails, Rage Against the Machine, Rollins Band, Helmet. Even Pantera was on there. So you have 14 banging tracks for the soundtrack for The Crow, as well as a good score that went along with it too. And it looks like there was a deluxe edition that went with the score too. Okay, so there were 2 discs for the score, which was the original, the deluxe edition track listing. So yeah, the original Crow, it was going banger with the music. Whereas with this one, it had some good music to it with the score. But then there was other areas where the music was like, yeah, it's more for today's period of millennials, Gen Zs, and stuff like that. But yeah, when it comes to the music, when it comes to the overall story for this movie, it was just lacking. There was a lot of things lacking from this movie. It could have been better. It could have been and should have been better than what it was. Like, I'm even here, sitting here reading. So, there was I just passed it. Here we go. There was a response from 94's film crew on here. Alex Proyas and Rochelle Davis refused to see the reboot out of respect for Brandon Lee's legacy, with Proyas saying that he thought the movie was a cynical cash grab. Sophia Shenyaz, I guess that's how you pronounce her name, also joined by expressing her disappointment, while Ernie Hudson expressed mixed feelings. I could see that being fair right there. You know, Ernie Hudson, he is I want to say he's underrated, but he's not underrated. You know, I mean, this is, you know, the original, not the original Ghostbuster, but he was part of the original Ghostbusters. You know, this is a Ghostbuster himself. He was in a lot of good movies. Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Ghostbusters. What was that? Did I just see he was in Coneheads or something? I don't think so. But he was in a lot of good movies. Even the movie Congo that came out in 1995. That's probably what I was looking at right there. But there's a lot of movies that he was in. And I can definitely respect his opinion on it. Now, what the other one said, you know, we don't want to see it because, you know, out of respect for Brandon Lee. And I do get that. I really do. Where the original, it just had this particular vibe to it that made it so good. And you have such a brilliant, underrated actor who has had something tragic happen to him on the set of the movie. And I really wouldn't want that to be like the forefront of why to go see the 94 Crow. But I feel like don't let the death of Brandon Lee keep you guys from either not seeing that or making that your thing as to not seeing the new Crow. Do I think this one deserves a chance to be watched? I will say, if you have a streaming service and it does come to a streaming service like Netflix or something, then maybe I would say give it a chance. I wouldn't throw your money away watching this movie if you're going to be completely disappointed with it. Now, however, like I said, I took my daughter to see this movie, and she liked it for what it was. You know, it was dark, it was like emo-based, and that's how a lot of teenagers are. You know, when you hit for some reason, when you hit teenage years, your life is just like so dark and gray, and you're down in like the pits of despair in your life. Everything sucks, nothing else matters. I guess it's like when you see things like this, it almost fits your characteristics, it fits your profile. So it's like, it's just something about the gothic look or the emo look. It's just like a phase for teenagers, and then when you hit adulthood, you're just like, I'm getting old, time to go to work and, you know, continue life as we know it, you know. But that's why I say, like, this movie feels more emo than it does gothic. You know, it has no gothic appeal to me whatsoever. It's like, oh, crows are gothic. You just see an overabundance of crows, though. Like in the original, you just had like maybe one specific crow who followed the character Eric around. And this one, it's almost like they really emphasize crows. Overemphasize crows. Like I said, when he falls into this other world while he's dead, talking to, what's his name, Kronos, and you see nothing but crows. Just nothing but crows flying around. It's like, okay, that's enough. Like, you just went into a completely different area that is not, that does not fill for this film. Now, I never read any of the comic series, so I don't know how well the comic series is played out, because the movie is based off the comic series. You know, that's, so I never really watched that. Now, I will say, reading from a couple of these responses here, so there was a negative response from Benjamin Lee for The Guardian, who wrote, "It was no surprise that a tortured update of 1994's cursed gothic revenge thriller The Crow would be a misfire. It's been in development since 2008, with multiple directors and actors attached to it ever since." Wow, so this movie has been in development hell since 2008. 16 years. Wow. It took them 16 years to get this movie off its feet. And it just bombed badly. But it's genuinely startling just how utterly wretched the finished product is, and how until it is for a wide release. Let's see. Alison Wilmore of The Vulture was very critical of the overall production and commented upon the acting as follows: "Skarsgard and Twigs have a total absence of chemistry, and while she's adequate in what's still basically a dead wife role, he's shockingly inert for someone with a career built almost entirely on characters at an intersection of creepy and hottie." Another negative review comes from The Empire, who rated the movie a 1 out of 5, finishing by calling it a turkey and crow's clothing. So there's some mixed reviews, there's some bad reviews. This one comes from CG Magazine, who wrote, "At the end of the night, The Crow isn't the worst movie of the year, but if you're a fan of the comic series or a fan of Bill Skarsgård, you'll likely walk out of The Crow with a big grin on your face. For everyone else, however, the latest adaptation of the dark anti-hero kind of just feels like another R-rated take on an oversaturated superhero genre that plagues modern movie theaters everywhere." I will give it that. I will go along with that review right there, because what is driving movie theaters nowadays? Superhero movies. Whether it's Marvel, DC, or some kind of comic book hero that nobody's heard of or whatever. And what was the most recent one to come out to be like the highest R-rated movie of the year or whatever, to gross over $1 billion, especially for Marvel? Wolverine and Deadpool, or however you want to reverse that. Now, that movie was superb. I really liked that movie, but I do get where this person is going with that. There is an oversaturation of superhero movies hitting the theaters. Like, you got Marvel, who has a roadmap for what movies are going to come out, what years, what months. DC was doing the same thing until they kind of flopped with a couple movies themselves, and they just pretty much, scratched everything and returned, back to the drawing board with that. But it's like, Marvel has a ton of movies that they're working on, and trying to get them all out in a certain amount of time. I mean, there's already been, 20-some-odd Marvel movies part of their MCU project since 2007, 2008, starting with Iron Man. But how many Marvel movies have come out before then? You had movies like Blade, you had Spider-Man, you had a couple Hulk movies come out before then. You had a ton of superhero movies that come out, like 80s, 90s, or whatever, before the MCU became a big thing. So I do definitely agree with that review, and this just feels like another R-rated take on the oversaturated superhero genre. But this is one of those that's like, even though it is a superhero, anti-hero, whatever it is, I feel like this is more geared towards the younger generation today than it is to old school fans. Like I said, when they did the trailer for this, and I just saw all kind of bad with it. I was like, no, I'm not going to see this shit. No. That's just it's disrespectful to Brandon Lee. It's disrespectful to that film and what he put together. But with this one, I wanted to find something good with it. I wanted to. Like, the only thing that I could say is maybe the score for the movie is pretty solid. It's not banger. It's not trippy like, 94 Crow, but it does have a decent soundtrack to it. It does have a decent score to it. Bill Skarsgard, he tries too hard. He tries too hard in this movie to fill Brandon Lee's shoes. And you can never do that. Not even with those direct-to-DVD movies that followed the 94 Crow. You cannot fill Brandon Lee's shoes. You could try, but I think that's what they were trying to go for. But at the end of the day, Bill Skarsgård, he is underrated when it comes to certain roles. I wouldn't call him Oscar worthy, but in this case, he tried. And I don't want to say he completely failed. I'll just say this: he did the role for a completely different audience, for a more modern audience. If you're somebody who's a teenager who wants to see this movie, and you feel you just fit the profile of being emo in a sense, this is, even though it's considered gothic. I don't consider any of it gothic. There's nothing gothic about this movie. It's dark, but it's emo dark. So if that's your thing, if you want to check it out, go round ahead. For anybody who's old school, who's a fan of the original Crow, you are not going to like this at all. I did not like it personally, and I will say, like, for my honest rating, my honest opinion, I gotta give this movie maybe a 3 out of 10. I got to give this movie a 3 out of 10. And that's just me being courteous. That's me being courteous. I wanted to have something to like about this movie. Even though there was like maybe one scene that lasted, I don't know, maybe 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes of him, slaughtering all these fucking people in a stairwell with a sword, which I could say was badass, but there's nothing too much that you could say that's really good about this movie. It's not put together right. I don't even know if it was scripted right. I don't know what they were thinking when they put the script together for this movie. But yeah, like, out of respect for Brandon Lee, like, I wanted to like this, but I just can't. There's nothing about this movie that I could like, that I could see that was actually remotely ingenuous or good, in a sense. But I will say, rest in peace 30 years. Rest in peace to Brandon Lee. Now, if I go back to the original, Brandon Lee... Oh, he died in... It was 93. Okay, so the movie released in 94. So Brandon Lee, he died March 31st, 1993 at the age of 28. And The Crow released in 1994. Released in May 1994. 30 years. 30 years a remake or a reboot. And it's just, it's night and day. You got something that's gold and you got something that's shit. Yes, it is. So, yeah, 3 out of 10 for this one. Rest in peace to Brandon Lee. He will always be the Crow. He will always be the Crow that everybody remembers and memorizes to this day. This one, however, to your new group of kids, enjoy it while you can. Because when mom and dad sit you down and make you watch or have you watch the original Crow, hopefully your minds will change and be like, yeah, that was definitely much better than this one. And that will end it today for this episode of Cinemacast. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you guys want to check out any more of our episodes of Cinemacast, you guys know what to do. Hit that like and subscribe button down below. If you guys want to follow us on our streaming platforms and social media platforms, our Discord server and all of that is right down below in the description section. You guys can find it down there. Once again, happy Labor Day, guys. And until next time, we'll catch you right back here at the cinema.